Okay. Industrial relations and employment relations. When we are done and I have some time, I would ask you to differentiate between industrial relations and employment relations. For me, last week we looked at some theories of industrial relations. Today we are coming to look at unionism. We indicated that in the past, and we have all come to that understanding, that industrial relations primarily has two parties involved, which is the employers and the uh, trade union. We have the government also coming in at a point in time, but primarily it is the employers and the trade union. So we have the government over there. So the trade union, and I kept emphasizing that the difference between industrial relations and employment relation has to do with the side one party of the relationship, which is the employees. What about the employees in terms of defining industrial relations and employment relations makes them different? What about the employees makes these two concepts different? Industrial relations and employment relations. Can someone help me? Okay, so let me mention some few names since I'll start with Abigail. Oh, Abigail, you
Sorry,
know,
can you please come again? The question wasn't clear.
okay. So the question is, what differentiates industrial relations from employment relations? Okay, in summary, that's it.
Sir,
Yeah.
with the industrial relations, it focuses on collective relationship between workers, while the
Mhm.
employment focuses on the individual relationship between the employee and the employer.
Thank you for that submission, and I'll take no other because it's enough for now. Thank you, Gina. So that is it. And so today we want to look at one party to the employment relationship, that is the trade union, and that gives birth to the concept unionism. Unionism. So when you hear unionism, it's focusing on the trade union. It's focusing on the trade union. The trade union movement or labor movement. When we add movement to trade union, you should know it's a different thing. So trade union movement or labor movement, they consist of organization representing workers' interest. So trade union movement and labor's movement consist of organizations, not an organization, different organizations. And those organizations, their main goal is to represent workers' interest. Examples of this trade union movement or this labor movement are the trade unions, the labor councils, the federation and congress. Federation means coming together. So the Trade Union Congress of Ghana is an example of the federations. That's why we say federations and congresses. Then we have workers' cooperatives. We have supporting non-governmental organizations and individuals who support labor goals. All these people are found in the labor movement. The labor movement. What are the key labor movement organizations we have in Ghana? This is to help you relate to it. So, what are some of the key ones
So
we
the
have?
TUC.
The TUC, yes, the TUC, which falls under the Federation. Then we have the Ghana Federation of Labor. Ghana Federation of Labor. We have other affiliated trade unions such as the NAT, the Public Service Workers Union, the Industrial and Commercial Workers Union, and so forth. Let me go ahead of myself and say that not all trade unions are in the Trade Union Congress. We will come to that. Not all trade unions in Ghana are part of the Trade Union Congress of Ghana. Okay. What is the meaning of labor union? I'm sorry, the labor movement. What is the meaning? So are trade unions same as pressure groups? What are pressure groups? Help me with pressure groups and probably I can help you with your question. What are pressure groups?
Right.
Yeah.
Can we say there are groups that they've been formed to maybe pressure the employers to stay on track, maybe with the working conditions, motivations of workers and the like.
Okay. I don't really know. So I'm asking because it's a question a colleague asked. One of your colleagues just asked at the test section that can we say uh, trade unions are pressure groups? Are the same as
So,
pressure groups?
in some,
Pardon?
so on one way or the other, I can say they are more or less like the labor unions because the pressure groups they act as the mouthpiece for the people. Let's say when it's in terms of government and the citizens, the pressure groups are the people that uh, intervene or the people that um, influence the government or the policymakers in terms of the problems that the citizens are facing or of
Mm-hmm.
which they are not able to voice out. The pressure groups then do that on behalf of the citizens. So when it comes to the organization too. I think the groups, the small groups that are in the organizations, and they act on behalf of the employees, and then channel their views to the management or the top level. They can be termed as pressure groups, and those same groups are the labor unions. So I think they can be called the labor unions too.
Okay, I think where you started is not where you ended, but I now get you've ended. Thank you. Mavis, you may speak.
Okay, good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Please, in regards to the pressure groups, I think they might have the same motive as the unions, but the term pressure group is not appropriate for the group
Trade
being
union.
formed. Yes, because if I'm an employer and you are being employed, I wouldn't allow you come to the workplace to form an association called a pressure group to pressure who me the employer. I'm not sure it's appropriate. Even legally, pressure group is not appropriate. It's not even going to be approved by the TUC and
Hmm.
every head who is supposed to approve this. I'm not sure it's appropriate.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very
Hello, sir.
much. Yeah,
Yeah,
Raphael, when
but
she's done, you came in, okay?
but
I'm
TUC
listening.
is also a pressure group. So what is she trying to say?
Okay, I'll come to that. Raphael, you may speak now. Raphael, if you are speaking, we cannot hear you. Kofi, I told you at the beginning that your mic is very low, so if you are speaking, we cannot hear you.
Say,
Yes.
yeah, please. Pressure groups are organized bodies. An example is the TUC. They are not ordinary people. Like you can't just get up and say you belong to a pressure group and I'm speaking for this organized. No, TUC is also a pressure group.
Okay. All right.
Hello, sir.
Okay. Thank you. Okay.
Sir,
Winnie, you can speak. Then I'll come in. Okay. Kingsford
Okay,
also wants to
so
speak. Winnie, speak.
I think the pressure group, they are known as an interest group, and it is an organization that seek to influence the public and decision making to promote its specific interests or goals. I
Okay.
think that's what they are for.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Kingsford, you may add your voice now.
yes, sir, I wanted to say that pressure groups seeks to influence policies of government and then decision making. But labor union is focused on um, protecting workers. It is within the working environment. I think,
Okay.
yes, it's about improving the living condition of workers within the labor systems, not necessarily to
Pressure.
yes, not necessarily a pressure group, but to help promote their economic and working interests. Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Adam, you may speak. Then Evans, you'd come in when Adam is done.
Hello.
Yeah, Adam.
This, I think the pressure group is the traditional way of uh, organize, organizing. It's a traditional way of association of workers to protect their rights. Whilst labor union is organized association of workers to improve their. It's the same thing, but one is traditional and one is, the modern way of, organizing workers to improve their working conditions and
Okay.
negotiate better wages.
All right, Adam. Thank you. And Evans, you may now speak.
Okay, sir. Hello, sir. Hello.
You may speak, Evans.
Yeah. Hello.
Yeah, Evans, we can hear you.
Hello,
Speak
sir.
freely.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. I asked the question because um the slide which projected the examples of labor unions in Ghana had the NAT as one of them, and I know NAT is a pressure group, and a pressure group they are an organization, a group of people that influence government policies for the benefits of its members. So I was trying to
But
relate, and I had a little confusion in my mind. That's how come I asked that question in the test chat. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Now, since you have spoken and you are the one who asked the question, let me take it from there. Raphael, if I give you the opportunity and I don't hear your voice, I will call the police to come and arrest you.
Hello, madam. Sorry, I think it was the device,
Hey,
so I've changed it.
that is it. Ah, yes,
So
but a point of correction. I'm not madam. Listen, you people have been doing that. I don't like that.
sorry, sir.
I'm a
So I think because your
Okay.
voice is cute, that's why.
Yes, sir.
Oh, rather, I'll go and buy some voice like Henceforth's voice to the album.
They should check your
Okay,
name.
Raphael, you speak first, then I'll speak to
Okay. So
Kingsford and Kingsford.
with regards to the pressure group and then the trade union, I think the difference is that the pressure group is any kind of group who come together to fight for maybe their common rights or common goal. But with trade union is a group of people, skilled, employed people under maybe one employment category who also come together to fight for their rights. So the difference is that a pressure group, no, it can be just a society or maybe a community who has named themselves maybe concerned drivers or something who are also fighting for their common goal, but they may not be necessarily employed by any organization or be maybe directly engage their services. However, when it comes to the trade union side, they are skilled people who might be engaged directly by maybe the government or maybe a private individual who also seeks for their betterment of the group as well. So I think that's the differentiation from my side. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Okay, Dan, so things you interchanged it, and I wish I would. Okay, you Dan will be the last person to speak on this, and then I'll come in.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. The pressure groups are they are overall unions. Their policies seek to address the overall let's say situation, but the labor unions are the specific ones who um, who work for or who seek to address issues of relating to employment. Let's say they speak for workers. They are there for workers, specifically for workers. But the pressure groups, they can involve individuals, they can involve other organizations, other corporations. So they special groups, pressure groups can even act for international wise, not only for specific groups or their only interest. So that is why I said he has interchanged it, but he said the pressure groups are for some maybe a society, a group of society or some special people, but specific people. That is the difference.
Okay,
Thank
okay.
you, sir.
So thank you. Kesford, sorry, let me take it from here. Okay. So that we can be engage on other aspects as well. There will be more discussions coming up. Thank you for understanding. By the way, who is eating banana in my class? And you did not invite me, and you're eating banana.
Hey.
Like seriously. Okay, let's continue. Aha. So now let me go back to the question he asked. And that question would make it clearer as to what answer, all the contribution, everything you said in terms of trying to give an understanding to each of the concepts it is. But does it answer the question? Say, are trade unions the same as pressure groups? The answer is no. They are not the same. Trade unions can be pressure groups, but not all pressure groups are trade unions. And that is the exact distinction Raphael was trying to bring on board. That trade union, though we are talking about organized just as this, but for them, they are for a particular organization. They have an employment relationship. Not all pressure groups have employment relationship on those they are mounting pressure on. Not all pressure groups have employment relationship. They may have an interest. So he cites an example that it may even be a society. You get it? It may be a society. Then the youth over there, they notice certain things are not going on well. Then they now, it's not necessarily registered. However, it is organized. When we say something is organized, it does not mean it is registered, but it means that it has a structure to it. It has a structure to it. So if I'm to answer the question as it is, are trade unions the same as pressure groups? No. Trade unions can act as pressure groups. In fact, almost every trade union serves in the capacity as pressure groups. However, not all pressure groups are trade unions. So if I now say trade union is equal to pressure group, then inversely, I'm saying that pressure group is equal to trade union. And those who remember their mass, can that logic be true?
No, please.
It can't. So that's what I'm saying. Yeah, if we are answering the question, then the answer will be no. But if the question was like, say, can we consider trade unions as pressure groups? Yes, the answer is yes. You can consider them as pressure groups. Someone is saying, hey, UCC. This one is not UCC, it's English. Okay, I believe we can proceed now. Let's look at the definition of labor movement. Labor movement is a collective organization of working people formed to represent workers in an employment relation and engages employers and government on labor issues, on matters such as better working conditions, fair treatment by employers, protection of workers' rights. Here, the emphasis here is that it is a collective organization of working people. collective organization. Collective organization. Okay. Development of trade unionism. How did trade unionism come about? How did unionism come about? Remember that trade unionism emerged in the early 1900s. Early in the 1900s, that was where the concept of trade unionism was birthed in Ghana. Yes, the name may not necessarily have been trade union, but the whole idea of people in a particular trade coming together to strengthen their voice on matters started way back. It began as a craft union in urban areas or urban centers. Later developed into industrial and national unions. Early labor relations based on the master and servant system. The last point is saying that the early days, the traditional employment relationship we had was the master and servant relationship. That was the system. So can a servant tell a master what to do? A servant only takes what the master gives. You don't have a say. How dare you talk when we talk? How dare you? In fact, this is consistent with the first theory we spoke about. You remember last week when we were looking at the theories, we said the unitary theory, and that was the basis of the relationship, or that was the beginning or the early theory that introduced the relationship between employers and employee. And that one, we said it was more or less like a parental relationship, parent-child relationship. Can you talk when your mother talk? No. So this is where the people realize that, who were into craftsmanship, realize that maybe I come, I'm like, Gina, you see me, my boss, I was telling him this and he shuts me up. And Gina will be like, you too, the same thing. Oh, the salary is small. Oh. Then Osebons will come. You people, what are you talking about? We'll be like, Charlie, the salary they are paying us is small. When I go and say my boss is screaming at me and shouting, then Mosebons will be like, it's the same thing in my situation. Oh. When you go and say it, you cannot say. Sometimes it's difficult. You brush you off as if you are not important. Then we realize that, why don't we come together? Because in our local adages, proverb, we say that prior day, we bakuebu, ukabumu embu. Okay. So let's come together so that we can have a united front and a stronger voice on these matters. And that is how it started. And then later, when the revolution, industrialization hits Ghana, we now realize that, now we need to make consideration for some few things. And that is what gave birth to trade unions in its current state as we have now. But it first started as craft unions. So now I would want to look at, we are looking at the development and we want to look at how it developed over the years. We indicated that It started long ago as craft unions, and the employees and employers relationship was like a master servant relationship. So it was difficult. Now the colonial labor conditions and workers exploitation at a point in time when the colonial masters or the colonial period, they put in measures to relate to their, please hold on, let me. Okay, Gina, please read what is on the slide. One side.
Okay, so colonial labor conditions and workers' exploitation. African workers perceived as target workers. Employers paid very low wages. Absence of labor laws encouraged. And under that, we have slave wages, racial discrimination, forced labor, long working hours, poor health and safety, and no worker participation.
Okay. So during the colonial era, or a little after that, this is what happened. They had a certain mindset about African workers. They believed that African workers were target workers. And what they meant by target workers was they work to a particular period and then they leave. Once they get what they want, they leave. So they are working for a particular target. Therefore, they decided that if we are going to keep these people in employment, we need to pay them very low wages so that they would indirectly continue to depend on us. If you pay them and they are well to do, they will hit their targets and they will leave you. So that is what birthed the concept of low wages. The low wages was a way to keep you still in need, in bondage. And because there were no labor laws, people were being paid slave wages. Slave wages, that is, the amount they were being paid was not a reflection of the efforts they were putting in. There was racial discrimination. People were forced to work against their will. Long working hours. People were working long hours and they were not paid overtime. And I know someone will be saying, this thing is still going on. No? We have poor health and safety and no worker participation in the decision making. All these things were things that did not help the employees. However, they were in play during the colonial era. So from there, people decided to come together and work as a united voice, which started from the craft unionism, which we saw. Then subsequently, during the industrial era, when these things were still going on and people were being paid very minimal wages because they feel they were target workers, they wanted to still keep them under bondage and under their powers. Because as long as you need money, you would work. So why will I pay you for you to feel comfortable and then go? It was still in place, and that was when trade unionism arose as a reaction to the colonial exploitation. when I ask you, how were the colonials exploiting, or how was the colonial exploitation demonstrated? How did it unfold? You indicate that during the colonial era, or that colonial exploitation, African workers were seen as target workers. That means they work to a limit, and once they get what they want, they leave. And because of that, they decided that they were going to pay the African a minimum wage. They were going to pay them lower wages so that they will continue to stay in employment and not leave. And doing that also led to those low wages, the slave wages they were paid, and other unhealthy things they went through. So trade union came up to actually react to that. Here, workers decided that let's come together so that we can protect our collective interest. You see, I told Francisca, you see our boss, he's not paying us well. I went to see him, he shouted at me, said I should clear off. I was talking to Bonsu. Bonsu also said he had the same issue with him. Gina also was confirming. And I don't know you, Francisca, if yours is better. Francisca says it's the same thing. They don't treat us well. You know that my office where I am working, the place is hot, and they will still come and put the generator there. The generator will be there and it will be producing heat. I will say this, they tell me they don't care. And even, do you remember Evans? Evans, who is at the production department, he said that they don't have any safety wear. And so as we are talking about this, we realize that no, we have one interest. So why don't we come together so that we can speak together? We can have one voice. They'll know that we are together on this matter. And that is what birthed the various trade group. The first known trade group in Ghana was the Government School Teachers Union, which was formed in 1925. Then followed by, there may be other ones, but the recognized ones during that period was the Government School Teachers Union, GSTU, in 1925. 3 years later, then we saw the popular rise of the Motor Drivers Association. Then subsequently, when people who were working in the religious schools, okay, the missionary schools, when they realized that, oh, okay, now, at a point in time, the missionary schools called the government to help them. They were struggling, and so they asked for government assistance. And that is why most of the missionary schools are now government schools. That's why most of the missionary schools now are government schools. They called for assistance. So they were called assisted schools. Assisted schools. So in some years later, I think in 1929 thereabouts, the teachers of these assisted schools, which is the missionary schools that are now being assisted by the government, also decided to protest against the 29% salary tax. The government school teachers had been able to secure their stance, and they were agitating or fighting for their own interest. Now, when the assisted schools came under government control, the government decided to impose a 29% salary tax. And when the teachers in these various schools heard of it, they said, we no go agree, oh, we no go agree. Then they formed the assisted schools teachers union to combat that. Subsequently, we saw the rise of the Carpenters Association and the Motor Transport Union. Later, the GSTU and the ASTU came together. So when these unions were formed, one funny thing that happened was that initially they were not really being recognized. They were not really being recognized. And when we talk about recognition, we came to understand that for you to be recognized, it means that you have been accepted by the other party to be negotiated with. If we talk about you being recognized, it means that the other party has accepted you and are willing to negotiate with you, are willing to engage with you. So initially, government was not doing that. They were not recognized by either government or even the private employees. So what they decided to do was that they went on mass protests and strikes, which caused a lot of disturbance. That disturbance affected the governance of the country or of the nation as it may be. So what happened later was the fact that the British government issued orders in council where he was giving them the right to organize themselves through the labor department. With the passage of that labor department, the Trade Union Ordinance of 1941 was passed. And that Trade Union Ordinance allowed for the formation of unions. However, it indicated that there was no right to collective bargaining, and also strikes were illegal. The first registered union was the Western Province Drivers Union in 1942. Then the first labor arbitration case, which was during the time of Justice Gorman. Under this, 28 trade unions registered by 1948. A minute, please. Okay. So now we want to look at Sections 2. The establishment of Trade Union Congress. The establishment of Trade Union Congress. The Trade Union Congress of Ghana was formed with 14 unions and a total membership of 6,030. It had its headquarters. It had its headquarters in the Western region, secondly in the Western region. Is there any question? Okay, no question. I got a notification, so I thought someone was asking a question. Okay. Okay, so that was it. It was established in 1945, and then during that period, we had 14 unions starting, which gave us a total of about 6,030 members. The head office was in, or headquarters was in the Western region, and it had Techi Manson and then Manfred Gazy as their president and secretary respectively. Now, after all that had been done, because subsequently in 1947, the trade union had its affiliates increase from 14 members to 27 unions. Sorry, from 14 unions to 27 unions, which pushed their membership from 10,970 from 6,030 to 10,976. In 1947, the trade union constituted district councils and labor made up of both registered and unregistered trade unions. District councils of labor discuss issues of national and international interest, including minimum wage, housing, health, and education. Now we want to look at the industrial relation under the CPP government. CPP government was the first government of, let me say, Ghana, our self-rule, self-reliant government. We moved away from the colonial time because we looked at the colonial era and we noticed that there was so much oppression over there. Though people formed the various groups, they were hardly recognized. So when we had our own government, what were some of the industrial relation issues we had? The CPP government pursued state-led regulations in industrial relations. It had strong alliance between government and the trade unions. The TUC was strongly supported by the government, by then the CPP government, and that was why Kwame Nkrumah gave them a place in their current location in Accra. He gave them that gift. The aim of the trade union was to ensure industrial peace, centralized union control, and national development. What was the Industrial Relations Act 1958 about? During that period, the government gave recognition to TUC as a sole labor center. It was under this act that government gave recognition to TUC as the sole labor center. It made collective bargaining compulsory in the private sector. This act made collective bargaining compulsory in the private sector. It also made collective agreements become legally binding. It gave it the legal binding it needed. So we go for a collective bargaining, we agree on things and we document it. It becomes legal binding. It becomes legal binding. I can pursue it at courts if I think or perceive that there is a breach. Then it legalized the check-off system for union dues. Check-off system, you pay dues at source. Yeah, so from source, so dues were encouraged. Then it introduced the compulsory conciliation and arbitration, and also procedure for lawful strike action. It encouraged strike action as an industrial action, but outlined how it should be done so that it would be more organized. It prohibited victimization and discrimination against union officials. In the beginning or early stages of the trade unionism, whenever, especially in the private sector, when they notice that a particular person is an official of a trade union, they begin to discriminate against a person and victimize a person. Most people lost their work during that period. It's like you are the one, the organization or the private sector, the management or employee saw you as a bad person who was always instigating problem. So they found a way to get rid of you. Union reconstruction and state control. While this was going on, the union restructuring and state control became a priority. Hence, the act sought to reduce the number of trade unions and restructure trade unions along industrial lines. At a point in time, it was becoming very, very chaotic. So it had to be organized. And it saw the measures of uh, the Gold Coast Teachers Union and Union of Teachers and Educational Union Workers. They merged in 1951 and then joined the CUC. Now, another restriction that came in, which made teachers who were in the tertiary institution and the secondary school move away from the trade union, was that they said teachers who were earning 680 Ghana cedis, sorry, not Ghana cedis, 680 cedis or more were not allowed to join the trade union congress. And because of that, they decided that, oh, okay, which we are going to form our own. So teachers' agitations to disaffiliate from TUC became an option, and some also refused to join the TUC. Because if I'm taking this and I'm saying that I cannot be part, and they're more far away. Hence, it led to the amendment and compulsory unionism. Industrial Relation Amendment in 1959 prevented unions from operating outside TUC. Civil Service Act of 1960 made trade union membership compulsory for civil servants, and TUC affiliates reduced to 17 national unions. The trade union hall was donated to TUC in 1960 by His Excellency Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. In 1962, governments allowed the formation of NAT, NAT remained outside TUC. NAT was not forced to join TUC. It was classified as a voluntary association, and it allowed the use of check-off systems to take their dues. And under the Labor Act 2003, Act 651, NAT officially was recognized as a trade union. So proud to that, NAT was not recognized as a trade union. They tried their best. So yes, we can say they were more or less like a pressure group, but they were not recognized as a trade union. However, in the Labor Act 2003, they were officially recognized as labor union. After the overthrow of Kwame Nkrumah, 4 general secretaries of the National Union were dismissed by the government after the coup because they believe the TUC derive benefits from close relationship of the government, but the union lost its independence when the government sacked 4 of its members. So when the government sacked 4 of its members, it lost its independence. One of the things that ILO, which is the International Labour Organization, has echoed and emphasized was the autonomy of trade unions, that they should not be, their activity should not be influenced by any other except the trade unions members themselves. So the appointment of leaders were strictly by the trade unions themselves, and it has even been suggested that they do not take funding from certain parties or certain agencies so that they don't lose their independence. Then in 1965, an Industrial Relation Act was enacted, which it replaced the Industrial Relation Act 1958. And it confirmed and expanded the trade union rights and privileges. It reinforced the right to organize, rights to collective bargaining, and ILO conventions, which was the freedom of association. It recognized TUC as a corporate legal body and made check-off system compulsory to ensuring union funding. Now we want to look at the role of TUC under the various republics of Ghana. How many republics have Ghana experienced so far?
4, please.
Thank you very much. 4.
4.
So
4.
yes. So under each republic, TUC had a role it played. We'll look at that quickly, then we move on to the next topic, which is the meaning and the nature of trade union. So the TUC and the National Liberation Council, NLC, 1966 through to 1969. when Kwame Nkrumah was overthrown, in which year was Kwame Nkrumah overthrown?
Nineteen 66.
1966. Okay. So in the year he was overthrown, TUC was weakened. Bear in mind that TUC had a very huge supporting from the CPP, which was led by Dr. Kwame Nkrumah as at then. So when he was overthrown, the TUC became very weak. The leaderships that were having close ties to the CPP were arrested and then imprisoned. And that was when the state intervention of TUC leadership, because the leadership were arrested and and imprisoned, the National Liberation Council appointed Benjamin Bentum as their general secretary or their secretary general. Bentum reportedly facilitated the arrest of existing TUC leaders and also the reorganization of the labor movement. TUC under Bentum supported the National Liberation Council government and led to some constitutional reforms within the TUC. So Bentum was selected when the NLC selected Bentum. There were some reformations or reforms that were undertaken, which was the Extraordinary Delegates Congress during the Extraordinary Delegates Congress in 1966. Bentum was elected, an amendment was made to the TEC constitutions and bylaws. These reforms granted greater autonomy to national unions. And national unions amended their own constitutions accordingly. So this was at the point where TUC said that, oh, NAT is not part of TUC, but they said that the various national unions that come together to form the trade union will not regulate you too much, telling you what you must do at every point in time. They gave them some room to make their own decisions and take certain actions in their own strength and domain. The new TUC constitution barred the union leaders from engaging in political party politics. They discouraged the participation of union leaders in politics and also reaffirmed. And also this particular policy was reaffirmed in their next Extraordinary TUC Congress, Delegates Congress in 1969. What were some of these policy changes and impact on workers? The repeal of Civil Service Act 1960. Some of the policy changes were the repeal of the Service Act 1960, which ended the compulsory union membership for civil servants. It also reduced membership of union The next thing it did was to implement the IMF-sponsored policy-led, which led to mass retrenchments in state-owned enterprise. The minimum increase in minimum wage, cuts in government expenditure, and trade liberalization. So these two things that happened, policy changes, had an overall impact or effect on the trade union. It made the trade union weak and also had an adverse impact on the workers and labor movement. Now we move on to the Second Republic of Ghana, which was from 1969 to 1972. The Second Republic, inaugurated in 1969, was headed by the and formed government formed by was headed by a government formed by the Progress Party, led by K.A. Buzia, who served as the prime minister. TUC and PP held opposing ideological orientation. They didn't agree on many things. So TUC had a confrontation with the government, and that confrontation was on their ideological differences. And this led to a tension between the TUC and the PP government. It also increased state hostility towards organized labor. Government viewed TUC as politically opposed. Yes, the reason being that prior to that, the NLC encouraged, or the NLC was highly supportive of the trade union, and trade union almost acted as though they were serving the needs of the NLC, which is the National Liberation Council. So when the new government came, they decided that no, you people, whatever you are saying it because of the previous government. You are not in for any good motive or with any good motive. So there was a very hostile relationship between them. They believe that TUC opposed them politically and has a potential threat to their authority. Hence, in 1971, they dissolved it. They dissolved the TUC. National unions required to amend their constitution, re-register within 6 weeks. And when the Second Republic was overthrown by I.K. Echampo, the State Union, the Trade Union Congress was reinstated in 1972. It was reinstated, and the new regime repealed the Act 383 through the Industrial Act Amendment Decree in 1972. We move on to the Third Republic, and this Third Republic was between the 1972 to 1992, and it was led by Honorable Jerry John Rawlings. It was a period marked with frequent military intervention. Major regimes was the NRC, Supreme Military Council, the Armed Forces Revolution, and the Provisional National Defense Council, PNDC. The relationship between the TUC and the military governments was mixed and unstable. The Supreme Military Council, and the labor reforms policies improved workers. They brought policies that improved workers' condition, and job security. Key reforms were improved social security benefits and administration, abolition of development levies on workers, significant increase in the minimum wage, revival of state-owned enterprises that were shut down during the coup, and this boosted their employment. And trade unionists, people who supported trade union, were appointed on state-owned enterprises boards. Now we look at the armed forces revolution, which was also under the Third Republic. We indicated that the Third Republic had a lot of military interference or disturbances. So the first was the uh, SMC, which is the Supreme Military Council. And that one, we looked at what they did when they came. They came to introduce reforms and policies that improve the working condition and job security of workers. And now we are looking at the second one that came in, which is the Armed Forces Revolution Council. The Armed Forces Revolution Council. It was led by Jerry John Rawlings. Some militant union activists supported the Armed Forces Revolutionary Council without TUC leadership approval. The Armed Forces Revolutionary Council allowed the election in August 1979. The SDF, which is known as the Social Democratic Front, presented 120 members out of a total of 140 constituency seats nationwide, but won only 3 seats. The new government, formed by the People National Party, led by Hila Lehman, was, however, overthrown by the Provisional National Defense Council, which was led by Jerry John Rawlings in 1981. As part of the IMF World Sponsor Economic Reform, state enterprises were privatized and thousands of workers were retrenched from the public service. According to Boatin 2001, the formal sector of the Ghanaian economy lost about 235,000 jobs. 89% of these job losses could be attributed to the retrenchment exercise. It is estimated that the TUC lost over a quarter of its membership during this period due to the mass retrenchment in the public service. The declining trend in union membership continued throughout the 1990s and 2000s due to the rapid informalization of work. and the slow growth of formal sector development. The labor movement, or TUC, in the Fourth Republic. The Fourth Republic started from 1993 to 2012. The Fourth Republic began in 1993, and it was a period characterized by democratic governance. The military was thrown away, so it was characterized by democratic governance, labor pluralism, and legal reforms in industrial relations. There were emergence of new unions. In 1992, we saw the formation of Texas Government and Leather Employees Union, the clue. Then we have breakaway from ICU, which was a TUC affiliate. In 1993, Labor Department registered the Textile Garment and Leather Employees Union in 1993. In 1996, we registered the graduate teachers broke away from NAT, hence forming the NAGRAT in 1996. We then formed the Ghana Federation of Labor, GFL, in 1997. 8 non-TUC unions formed the GFL, which was the TEGLU, the NAT, the Ghana GRNA, the CSA, the Judicial Service Staff Association of Ghana, the Cooperative Transport Association, and Tailor and Dressmakers Association. NAT, JRNA, and the Civil Servants Association later withdrew from the Ghana Federation of Labor. Labor law reforms and the Act 651. In 1999, Labor Act reforms process initiated by the NDC government involved all social partners. So it was a tripartite approach. In 2003, the Labor Act 2003 Act 651 was passed by the NPP government. The key features was that it repealed the previous industrial relations laws. Then it established the National Labor Commission, and then it legalized the trade union pluralism. The union pluralism and realignment from 2003 through to 2012. It started with the Labor Act 2003, Act 651, which allowed that any two workers to form or join a union. So the result was that there was a growth of enterprise level unions, many unions unaffiliated to national centers. In 2003, there was a formation of the UNICOF from breakaway ICUs. When we say ICUs, we refer to the Industrial and Commercial Workers Union. Okay, the Industrial and Commercial Workers Union. So there were breakaways from that. Then UNICOF, which is the Union of Industry, Commerce, and Finance Workers. Union of Industry, C for Commerce, and the CO is for Commerce, and then the F is for Finance Workers. Now became affiliated to the TUC. The ICU disaffiliated itself from the TUC in 2003. Then in July 2004, TUC formally accepted ICU's disaffiliation. So it became formal and accepted in that period. And by 2012, TUC had 18 affiliated national union across the sector. Section 4, what is the meaning and the nature of trade union? The meaning and nature of trade union. Organization. Trade union are organization formed by workers from affiliated field and work for the common interest of its members. That is trade union. Organization formed by workers from related field that work for the common interest of its members. So we just highlighted some few things that a trade union does. It negotiates agreements with employers on pay and conditions, discuss major changes, and these are things which we may have discussed already and have found in your book. Now let's look at the types of trade union. We have the general union. Types of trade union. We'll be looking at about 4. We have the general union. The general union is a trade union that represents workers across different industries and companies. Membership is not limited to one occupation, no, sector or enterprise. Represents both skilled and unskilled workers. It covers workers performing different tasks of jobs in various industries. So examples of workers in a general union are cleaners, clerical and administrative staff, transport and logistic workers. We come to the second type of trade union. It is the industrial union. The first one was general union. The second one is industrial union. Industrial union is a labor union that organizes all workers within the same industry. It enhances workers' bargaining and strike power. Members cut across levels, trades, and occupations. So what's the advantage here? They make negotiations simple. They promote workers' solidarity, whether you are skilled or unskilled, you are being brought together, you are merging, you bringing that unity and closeness. Then is suited for our modern industries where we have mass production techniques. One drawback is that skilled workers may feel overshadowed by unskilled workers. We move to the crafts union. The crafts union is a labor union that organizes workers by craft, trade, or skill. So example, you have electricians, carpenters, plumbers. So the classification is by your crafts, your trade, or your skills. We move on looking at some of the benefits of crafts union. There is strong internal cohesion and strong bargaining power. Weakness of the crafts union is easy for employers to weaken. It is very easy for employers to weaken. It has technological change which reduces relevance. Or whenever there is a technological change, it reduces relevance. Can you imagine organization or union of typewriters? Now that there is computers, where are they now? They can't even speak anymore. It weakens labor solidarity. Then the last one we'll be looking at is the white collar union, the one most of us want. White collar union. For white collar or professional workers union, they perform the same or similar tasks in different industries. So we have scientists, we have accountants, we have teachers, we have students. Okay, so we look at recognizing and derecognizing trade union. There are two ways that a trade union can be recognized. And when we talk about a trade union being recognized, it is when the employer has agreed to negotiate with them on behalf of the group they are representing. That is recognition. If the employer is not willing to negotiate with you, has not agreed to negotiate with you on behalf of your people, then you have not been recognized. So there are two ways recognition can happen. It can happen voluntarily or statutorily. So the voluntary recognition is where they decide themselves, oh, you've brought it, you've proven beyond reasonable doubts that you are representing the people have appointed you. Okay, let's negotiate. Or the second one where we would have to bring the legal, we have to test the law, and then the law compel the employer to recognize them. What is the major function of the trade union? This, when I ask Osei Bonsu right now, he will vomit it, pew, 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 pew. Because trade union, we know that they are there for a reason. They are there to provide welfare, labor welfare. They are there to safeguard the interests of workers. They are there to secure facilities for workers. They are there to increase the cooperation and well-being among workers. They are there to establish contract between the workers and the employers. All these things are well outlined. Then we have four categories of function. The functions that I've highlighted, there are four categories. In the book, we say three, but the latter parts we added the political function, and that is the reason I made it four in my slide, but we indicated three. So if you are asked, please give the, if you're asked to give the three, please give the first three, don't add the political, because trade union is not, it's not encouraged to participate in political actions. Yes. For them to have their independence, it is not advised that they participate in political things. Okay, so when we talk about militants, militants will give you the impression of fight. So every function of the trade union that is like they are fighting for something is the militant function. Example is to achieve higher wages and better working conditions, to raise the status of the workers as part of the industry, and to protect. You see, they are fighting for all these things. So it gives us that militant function. We come to the fraternal function. Fraternal basically looks at the support that members are giving. Okay, so the fraternal function is how the trade union supports its members. And we say it takes up welfare measures by improving the morale of workers. It provides opportunity for promotion. It protects workers and women workers against discriminations and all that. These are some of the fraternal functions. Then we move on to the social function. Social has to do with society. So everything they do for the community, anything they do that focuses on social welfare and community development comes under the social function. And it may include education, research, publication of periodicals, and the rest. Then the last one, which I indicated, is a political function. The political function is a very minor function. So in most cases, you can ignore it unless you are told to give four functions and four categories of functions. Okay. When you are told to give functions of uh, trade union, don't say one, political function, two, uh, uh, militant function, three, fraternal function, four, social function. No, those are categories. Under each of them, there are. So to be safer, if you are just asked to give functions, you can outline some of these major functions over here as projected. You can write this ones. You are on a safer side. But if you are asked to give maybe two militant functions, two fraternal functions, then it is a different story we are talking about. But don't say that, oh, say the functions of trade union, one, social function. No, it's just a category. You have not stated what function it is. Okay, we are almost done. And the last but one slide is, why do workers join slave and trade union? Why do workers join trade union? Why do they join? And we've outlined these things. So I'm going to call on someone who would read the why, and then I may take questions. Is someone asking a question?
So my question has been answered. I wanted to know when if you are giving the function, but you've stated it, so it's answered.
Okay. Oh, then just
Yes, sir.
please read what is on the slide for me. Why do workers join trade union?
Sir, for greater bargaining power,
Mm-hmm.
better wages and benefits,
Mm-hmm.
personal protection, equality, health and safety, minimizing discrimination.
Mm-hmm.
I'm done.
No, it's two sides. So
Okay.
You are not done.
Okay. Says sense and security, sense of
okay.
participation,
Uh-huh.
sense of belongingness,
Mm-hmm.
platform for self-expression,
Yeah.
betterment of relationships.
Thank you, Josephine. Thank you. Thank you.
Have you seen Gina? It's worrying.
Yeah, Jenna, you may ask your question.
Okay, so, and please, on the sense of security, I want to use a classical example.
That would be
In
appreciated.
2015, in 2017, where I work, the new management decided to do a massive nationwide transfer. Even before the transfer, the idea was to sack all those who were at post before the 2016 election. So staff from the northern region were moved to the central region. Those in water region were moved to upper east region. And I'm in the western region. I was transferred to upper west.
Hi.
And in transferring, you have to give the person transfer grants and at least enough time to prepare. None of these were made. And has it not been the union or the union or TUC, we would be, some of them would have quit their job. Others too would be where they don't wish to be. So we took the case to court, and court ruled that we should come back to our old regions where we used to be. Stations, yes. And what again helped us was we joined the union just before the elections. So has it not been that? So the union really works. It helps. It protects.
Wow. 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 Thank you for giving us hope. Because some people are here, they don't believe the union works.
So what about the private? We are the private sector. This one will not work for us. What Gina will tell me will not work. The private sector.
But with the private, you also have your union or
yeah. It will come in.
Madam Josephine, it works. It works in the private sector as well. For the company where I work, last December, it is in their collective agreement that they are supposed to be giving bonuses. They have their statutory bonus of, I think, 1.5 months, compulsory 1.5 months. And depending on the profit the company makes, it will calculate extra and add to the 1.5 months they have in their CA. But the company was not willing to pay even the 1.5 that is in their CA, and they had to go on strike.
In the private sector?
Yes, a private sector.
Mine's not like that. You know one thing, when you have been transferring, it was given 2 years, but now they said 1 year. So that's why I said when it's private government, the policy is there unless you take to this in court for amendment. But private, they can change at any time. They will sit down. We are using.
Can I ask a question?
Boss, I'm listening.
Okay, Josephine. Do you have are you part of the trade union?
No, boss, I'm working at the private sector, so
yes. So now, as a private sector, I mean, I don't. If I ask any question and it's too personal.
Societe Generale was bank government and now bought by French people. So, boss, do you know what?
Relax.
Boss, I'm relaxed.
We are here to listen and also advise accordingly based on what we know and our experiences. Okay, but we first need to understand you, and then maybe you also understand where we are coming from. Now, we are saying that maybe what I said earlier, maybe most people did not get it, that the law has allowed every organization to permit, or is requiring that every organization to permit their members to form trade unions. So every organization, every company forms trade union. Now, where you are working, which is
Society
societal
Society
societal
General.
yes. The question I would ask is there a trade union there? That means, as workers, have you all come together to form a trade union?
Say no, no, I'm not sure.
Aha. So we are saying the advantage of a trade union is that we have one voice. And that one voice, no, it is stronger than everybody going one by one. So if you remember, I was citing an example earlier where I was using Gina and then Osei Bunsu and later I had Francisca. I was like, hey, Gina, when I went to see my boss for an increment, my boss did not mind me. And she also brought it. Then we realized that it's because we were going individually, they were just pushing us to the side. So we need to form a trade union. Now, every organization is permitted to form trade unions. Yes, there are some few ones that are not, like the security services. Security services don't form trade unions. Okay, and people in management don't form trade unions. There are some critical distance that are not allowed to form trade unions. Now, even if your organization, you cannot form a trade union yourself, and there is another trade union somewhere, maybe they say trade union of bank workers, which initially I think we had one, the UNICOF. If you are all part of the UNICOF and you are paying your dues to UNICOF, issues like this, you cry to UNICOF to come to your aid. You see, so you going to talk individually will not yield the results you need unless it is a unified voice. So what Gina was saying by her example is that they were, even in the beginning, prior to the election, they were not part of the trade union. They were not part of the trade union congress. But they decided, oh, we need to be united. So they joined the trade union congress, the trade union. And fortunately for them, by the time the various transfers had come, they were already part. So they only channeled their grievances to them that, oh, our people, this is the problem we are going through. Fight for us. So they took it up and they fought for them, not because they are government workers, but because they are members of the trade union. So with your end, Josephine, I believe if you had a trade union, hello?
I'm listening, pa.
Oh, okay. If you had a trade union, then you wouldn't be easily victimized like the way you people are going through. If you like, go, another person will come. It's because
Yeah.
one person is going to say that. But if the whole team says we are doing this, and then they decide to go on strike, the law gives room or permits trade unions to use legal procedures to embark on these industrial actions like strike. So if after various attempts of engagement, the company or management is refusing to acknowledge this various the trade union voluntarily, then they can use the statutory means to force them to acknowledge them. If they are not acknowledging them, it becomes a legal issue, and the company would suffer. So far as you have people who are willing to stand and fight for you, the union, officials are able to stand their grounds and fight for you, then the chances of you having what you want is higher. Let Jenna speak and then maybe I'll conclude on that matter. Yeah, Jenna.
I'm saying, please, we have another lecturer and he's now lecturing.
Oh, okay. Yeah, 4 minutes past. Okay, my
Yes.
people, thank you very much. And those who have to join can go. And we all have another lecture, so we all have to go. Thank you so much for your patience.
No,
Every
thank
other
you.
thing you communicated on the page.
Thank
All
you,
right.
sir.
Thank you,
Okay.
sir.
Bye.